perfection of God, exquisite light of the universe, to accept that you are the light of God is the journey of love. It would seem to be just a simple acceptance, and yet under the declaration of I am the light of God is a resistance, the fear of God. Fear of God that is not recognized in the everyday. The fear of God because to surrender and to accept your divine self, one with all creation, is to no longer believe that there is a control that is possible. In the realization of this exquisite light that burns within, will finally come the recognition that there never was anything that could be controlled. Love, in love, there is no possibility of control. Love is complete perfection and equality. There is nothing competing in love. The whole premise of being in control is the idea that the only way to be safe is to be in control, to know, and to protect. But the journey of love is the journey of recognition that everything already is just love. And yet, the willingness to accept that there truly is nothing to defend, nothing to protect, and above all, nothing to prove, nothing to get. But the journey of resistance is very familiar to everyone. But resistance doesn't show itself obviously. Resistance comes through the idea of worry, the discomfort of the unknown. And it is with a leap of faith, constant faith, that you can be taken past the resistance. All resistance is fear. And fear is all resistance. It isn't seen that way. Fear is seen as something legitimate that has to do with the possibility of dying, the possibility of being harmed. And the teaching of the separate self is to master protection. so that it becomes a subtle byproduct of life. And then in the spiritual journey, the conscious journey of remembering, it's all about surrender and letting go of the protection that's been built. You could say that there is a prison that's been built that was made to look like a castle, but it was made out of the belief of habits, counting on the habits of the everyday life to be a protection so that you're not present. When you are in the trance of habit, you can sleep because the habits have a pattern that you can count on in the everyday. And it takes a dedication to remembering to step out of the habits, out of the trance, to wake up out of that trance and be present in your life, to actually be here, present in this moment, and conscious to what love is calling and love is guiding, and what would be most helpful moment to moment. Within that trance and those habits, there is a identity that says, I've got this under control. I've got it figured out in the day-to-day. This is why there is so much upset when there's a disturbance in the routine, in the habit, because you have to actually come out of the trance enough to make decisions. And then love is calling you to surrender your decisions into the arms of God and be willing for the guides of love to lead you and show you what is most helpful, moment to moment. The journey can either be a journey of love, or it can be the journey of protection and defense. But the journey of protection and defense is very subtle because it's had lifetime after lifetime to, in a way, make it so subtle that you're not even aware that there is a fear of not being in control. But as soon as guidance is introduced as to be guided by the beings of love, in that relationship to guidance, the fear can get very strong of resistance. And yet the longing to remember is still there. And in that longing to remember the truth of love, a calling to choose begins to truly occur. Choosing in the day-to-day, what is it that I truly want and what is most helpful? Show me the way. I'm willing to be shown. And a whole new landscape opens within that relationship to guidance. As soon as some of the resistance has been let go, the relationship to guidance becomes an awareness that as you allow guidance to lead you, the decisions of your everyday life become more harmonious, easier, because everything is now in the laws of God. And you begin to see that those decisions with guidance are blessed. They're filled with grace and ease. Some of them may seem still ordinary, but there's a presence that begins to be recognized, that you are held. You are held in love and have at your disposal the power of God that wants your journey to be in ease and blessed. But the blessings can't be received in the fear of wanting to be in control or being in the trance. In the trance, the blessings aren't available because there's a relationship with being closed off. And that's the journey of love, is the opening everything so that the teachers of love can take you into the classroom, into the schoolroom of the everyday life, and everything becomes a learning instead of a doing. Imagine walking into each circumstance and having in your heart the question, what am I here to learn? What is here for me to learn today? Now, the ego mind would say, I know enough. There's nothing for me to learn. I know where I'm going. I know what it's supposed to look like. I know what my task is. But under that surface is a learning, a beautiful, deep learning that has within it the gems of truth, the blessings, the grace of God's transformation waiting for you to join, to invite, and to ask the question, what is here for me to learn in this moment, in this day? And as you ask that question, there will be an awareness of deep connection. There will be an awareness that you aren't walking alone. You are held. You are guided. You are blessed in your invitation to learn what is the truth of love in this moment. And in every moment, there is the opportunity of learning to love. It may come in different shapes and forms, and it may involve different beloveds, different situations, but they all come back to learning the truth of love and learning the truth of peace and joy, because it's what you are. You are peace, you are joy, you are love. You are the light of God. You can't take that truth and apply it to the small self that you made. You can't apply it like you're using instant glue and putting it on as an identity. It's the dropping away of the little self, the identity that's been made in the belief of separation and limitation, that as you surrender all that you know from the past, you make room for the blessings, for the light, and to recognize the divine self that has always been within. It was never taken away. It was never lost. It's just been covered up with a costume of limitation and separation. And as you surrender the mind and surrender the heart, you invite the power of God, of love, and it transforms because you are willing. And you're willing to let go, surrender the trance, the false self. The journey can be filled with happiness. If you just accept that you are so happy that you weren't right about what you thought you knew about who you were, just that alone will open so many doors and windows into the truth of who you are. Just the happiness of, I'm so glad I was mistaken about what I thought I knew. I'm so happy that God's will for me is not and has no similarity to what my will was for myself. Because alone, the little will that the ego made has a will that says, I'm going to seek and never find. I'm going to criticize and judge myself. And I'm going to project that criticism into the world also. And in that there is no joy, there is no peace, there is no love. But there is no repercussion for the mistaken identity. There is no pay. You don't have to pay for the mistaken identity. Just the forgiveness of, I was mistaken. I was just mistaken. And I just fell asleep and forgot the truth. And the doors all open because they were never closed to you. But you discover that they're open. In every moment is the opportunity of the learning of love. Every moment. Day by day. The brilliant journey of love's remembering. So in this moment is the moment of beginning again, surrendering all knowing, and opening the doors of guidance and learning, and affirming that here in the infinite circle of love, we are one. There is only one heart, one beingness of love, one creation, all perfection. There is only one presence here, and it is the life force of God. And this life force of God is within you, ready to awaken and remember and rejoin the life force of the universe, and that it is within you. The sanctuary is filled with love because this universe is all love. Nothing else exists. All of the concepts of proving and winning and even surviving, but proving is one of the ego's favorite tools of distraction and pain, to try to prove your worth and to accept in this declaration that God sees nothing else but the truth of love. You are not having to prove your worth to God. This is a complete made-up fabrication to stay separate, believing that there is some proving that you need to do. You have to improve yourself. But this self-hatred is being called to be surrendered. Let go and open to the light. There is nothing that is not yours in the truth of love. There is nothing for you to earn. You can rest in God because it's where you naturally belong. But we have to choose in the journey of remembering. Choosing constantly to not believe the mind that says there is a problem. choosing to allow love to lead. Moment to moment, only love. Along the way, in the truth of remembering, prayer becomes a place of connection, of solace, of intention, of purpose, communion. Opening to the intention of what you truly want, and affirming that you are willing to walk that path of light and love. And allowing the encouragement of the light to show you the way. Come along, brother, let's go on this path of light and love. Come along, sister, let's go on this path of light and love, with our Father and our Mother, and letting all pain go. Let us pray and work for this goal. It's the task of our lives. I see the Spirit, I see my soul, I see the light in me. As my heart opens like a flower, I become the living God. I create and I am created within the oneness of all. I see the Spirit, I see my soul, I see the light in me. This is the journey within. This is the journey of remembering and letting the Holy Spirit open that holy vision so that you can truly see the divine spirit that you are, and to recognize your soul, which is the Spirit, and to see the light within, to acknowledge that light that is always present. And as the heart opens like a flower, no longer defended, no longer fearful of opening, but willing to ask for the transformation of the heart to be opened and set free, you realize that you are the living God. That realization comes as the heart opens. And in that awareness of the living God that is within, you can join in creation. You create with the divine as one, because everything is the love being created as you join with the oneness. And you create within the oneness of all, for all. And your heart is singing, can't stop singing, because it's what it came to do. My Father and my Mother, I ask that you hear me. I ask that you hear me to open the doors of light. I not only ask for myself, but I ask for all beloveds to show me the way into the true forgiveness, to forgive all of the erroneous ideas of separation. I ask you for this truth to become illuminated in my mind and heart. The boat that sails on the sea also sails in my heart. I receive the blessings of love as I allow and rest in God. In every moment, you hear me, you answer me, you lead me. Meu Pai, peço que vos me ouça, para eu pedir o perdão. Eu peço não só para mim e os meus irmãos. Meu Pai, quando for perdoar, perdoa como e convém. Eu peço que vos nos perdoe, como perdoou em Belém. A barca que corre no mar, corre no meu coração. Aquele que aqui batiza, batizou no Rio de Jordão. It takes a leap of faith to pray deeply. To pray deeply is to open the heart enough that you want only the truth. To pray deeply for transformation is already saying, I am willing to realize that I'm not in control and there is nothing to control, and that you will show me the way to peace and harmony. I'm willing. And to have the power of that prayer beating in your heart and singing all day long, it is always answered. It is always answered. We just have to be available for it. I remember that was probably a recognition that would go away constantly back into the trance. As I was walking through the journey of remembering, I would remember that I had to invite the truth, invite being taken. And then I would forget and go back into the trance and then have to ask again, only because I had forgotten again. How many times did I have to forget and then remember again? Thousands, thousands and thousands. But it didn't matter, because every time you begin again, it's just that moment, beginning again. There is no helpfulness and there is no truth with the mind that likes to criticize because you forgot. There's no purpose to that except to self-condemn and to believe that self-condemnation has some helpfulness to it. To self-criticize when there is no criticism in God has no value. It doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't make you more ready. It's that willingness to ask for the strength of God, the willingness to say, I need strength, I need help. Show me how to keep my mind focused on the yes. Show me and give me the strength to trust deeper and deeper every day. Show me how to surrender, because I don't know how. And if I thought I knew how to surrender yesterday, show me how to surrender more deeply today. Every day new, every moment new. And if you forget 100 times, 1,000 times a day, it means nothing. You just remember again, begin again. And trust in the benevolence of love, that there is no condemnation, there is no criticism. That's all made up in the mind. And it has no purpose. None at all. Freedom, to be free, is to be incapable of criticism, of self-criticizing, of self-condemning, and of criticizing anybody else, of course. But the self-criticism is that secret place of personal thoughts and secret thoughts that can go on all day long when it has absolutely no purpose. It doesn't serve remembering at all. To ask yourself, what is it that I truly want? Yes. That's to keep coming back to that awareness of, what is it that I truly want? And what do I want to come of this moment? What is this moment for? And those questions bring you back to reality. They bring you back to being more present, out of the trance, out of the fantasies, out of the habits. But criticism has no place in the spiritual journey of love, has no value. So the everyday becomes a peaceful, happy place. It's much easier to wake up expecting peace and harmony than having to be ripped to pieces and learn hard lessons. Why would anybody want to go there? That's already here. And it has nothing to do with the truth. The truth is peaceful. The truth is restful, joyous, filled with ease, and filled with the abundance of love. Never-ending abundance. In awakening into the abundance of love, there is a realization that, is it possible that there could be so much love? How is this possible that there is such an abundance? It's flowing, it's flooding, it's everything. And the willingness to open to that flooding, to be submerged in love. And then there is nothing else. Nothing else. It tried to prepare me. The clear night sky tried to prepare me for what it knew would someday open. It began to show me ever deeper aspects of its splendor. And then one evening just directly asked, "Will you be able to withstand your own magnificence?" I thought I was just hearing things, until a spring orchard I was passing my days with, at the height of its glory, burst into song about our every beloved's destiny to burn with radiance. Still, I felt my ears were playing tricks on me until the morning came, when God tore open my chest, needing more room to bloom inside. I began to pull and roll through the streets in ecstasy. Everyone thought I was crazy. Everyone will someday know how blessed I was. You will. It is all preparation. Do we need that much preparation? Not really. We could wake up in an instant if we were available, but resistance is tenacious. The fear of God lives underneath the fear of change, the fear of surrender. The attachment to the belief that control is real is at the core of the tenacity of the ego. How many times a day, because this is true of everyone, how many times a day do you let your mind go to the future and try to figure out what's gonna occur, how it's gonna look, how it's gonna feel, how you can defend yourself or protect yourself from what's not here yet? And the spiritual journey is just that constant letting go, that there is nothing to plan or put together. Does that mean that you can stay present, really, really present in the now? Yes. And then the mind would say, well, what am I going to do about what happens next? But inspiration will lead you. Guidance will reveal itself because you're available, because you want to be guided. And then the inspiration comes of exactly what's most helpful to unfold. And as you enter into that relationship with inspiration, with guidance, it becomes an adventure of love, an adventure of unfolding, but trusting that God isn't going to leave you without, and that it will unfold and you'll be available because you'll be in the present moment with the spirit of love. And everything becomes revealed moment to moment. What is so fearful of that? It is the unknown. And everyone in the ego identity intrinsically says, you have to know. You have to know how you're going to protect yourself, because it's all based on protection and defense of some kind. And it's based on the belief that you are lacking, that there is no abundance in the belief of separation. There is only the belief of scarcity. And in the belief of scarcity, it's all fear. Because scarcity isn't just about survival. It is certainly about survival, the belief that you have to know in order to survive. But it's the scarcity of love. It's the scarcity that you will be unblessed, that you will not be held and in the abundance of the flow of love. But it's who you are. And not to expect the flow of love is to believe that there is danger, that you can be hurt. In the belief of scarcity, it has to also be that if the belief of scarcity is running, everything is seen through the lens of lack, and that someone else has what you don't have, that comparisons are legitimate. Now, comparisons aren't put out there, obviously. You don't walk around comparing while you're talking and making comparisons necessarily, but they're running. They're running of comparing what you have compared to what somebody else has, and not just materially, but your worth. You compare worth, how others have been blessed and how you believe you haven't been blessed. This is all of the ego's framework for resentment, for grievances, for suspicions of others, for jealousy, for greed. It all grows from the belief that there is not enough and that others receive more than you do. The ego can become so vigilant for this that it will spend all of its time hooked into seeing what others have and what you should have and how you don't have. And what it does is it's the ego's intention through this, because it's very painful. It's very painful to be looking at others with suspicion and jealousies and fears that they are going to get what you're supposed to have and all of that. But what that keeps doing in its intention is to affirm that there is a reason to fear God, that God is actually the one doling out everything, and that the scarcity comes from God, that there is a stinginess in the universe that is cruel. This isn't consciously believed, not right out there, but behind the curtain is this belief that God is punishing. Almost all standard religions have within them the belief of a wrathful God, a God to fear, a God that punishes, a God that strikes down nations and chooses between people of whether they're good or they're bad. None of this is true. This is all self-made in the belief of separation. The only place that greed and fear come from is the belief that there is not enough. And everywhere you look, it looks like there's not enough. So how do you open to the abundance of truth? Is all coming from that belief of scarcity. It runs the show. And it has to be rejected. It's back. It has to be rejected. Absolutely. You cannot accept love and the abundance of love and the benevolence of love and believe in scarcity, because you are, by your identity of the past, going to be in the belief that you're the one that got shortchanged. You're the one that is missing the abundance. Now, you have lots of other evidence in the world that says People suffer all over the world. So you're part of that clan of suffering. And you identify, when there are beloveds who are suffering, you identify with those beloveds. You compare yourself to those beloveds and say, look, I have that same pain. But there's no healing and there's no help there. You're not serving those beloveds by joining with them in commiserating in your lack. It's to deny the belief that there is not enough. And it's not, the material level is just one facet. It's the abundance of love. It's the abundance of grace. It's the abundance of peace and joy and power, strength. All of that is without limitation. But you can't serve two masters. You can't serve the belief of scarcity and serve the truth of abundance. This is not a journey about fulfilling your ideas of what you would like to have in the world. Like if you focus on a Maserati, you'll have a Maserati. That can help in a preliminary element of learning, only to say there is no limitation. But it's not about trying to get in the world. It's the realization that everything is already within you, that you are everything, along with all creation. You're not in competition with anyone or anything. You don't have even a possibility of competing with anyone for your light, for your abundance of love. But when you compare yourself, when you allow the mind to do comparisons with others, that becomes your suffering. It is a place of deep suffering because it's a self-attack. First, you are saying there is not enough, and then you're comparing what others have and that you don't have, because I guarantee it's not going to be the other way around. It's going to be that you are in the belief that you are lacking. And in that belief of lack, there is great resentment and grievances for others who you believe have more than you do. It's a temptation that the ego wants to use all the time. All the time. You could walk into a restaurant and if there are beloveds in front of you waiting for a table, you will compare yourself with those beloveds who are waiting for the table, and that you are resentful that they were there first. And in that resentment, a whole story is there about that it was through lack that you showed up later than they did. It's a never-ending, in the belief of lack, it shows up everywhere. Absolutely shows up everywhere. And it has to be denied. To accept the abundance of love is to deny scarcity. And this is the same learning as all learnings in the spiritual journey of love, that you have no proof other than what you already think you know about scarcity. You have proven scarcity to yourself in the past. You have lived in the belief of scarcity in lifetime after lifetime because that is the domain of the ego. The domain of the ego is the belief in scarcity because it keeps you believing that there is something else to get outside. You keep looking for it outside instead of the acceptance that everything is already here within and you are all love. But because you believe you have proof of the scarcity, that's where you put your trust, in what you already know, what you've already proven to yourself, that there was never enough love, that there was never enough acknowledgement, that there was never enough of anything, and never enough worth. Where did this lack of worth come from? Because we chose the ego in the belief of separation. Immediately there was the belief of scarcity, and immediately in the belief of separation, it was that we were bereft of love because we had left God. And this was our punishment. And when it is true for you, that's what you experience. When it's true in your belief system, it's what you live. You see everything through scarcity. You see everything through lack and through a lack of worth. None of this is true. But the promise of abundance is a leap of faith because you're not aware. You may be able theoretically to accept that there is an abundance of love, but to accept it into your life is to let go of the defenses of trying to get and trying to prove, and the fear of others having more than you and doing comparisons. All of that is being called to be let go. And how do you truly surrender the habits of comparisons and jealousies and grievances that others have what you don't have? How do you let that go? Every day is the call that you don't have to, but it's the choice to come back to peace, is that you are willing to truly surrender all the thoughts that come into your mind. To be vigilant for all ideas of separation and lack. All ideas of comparing and trying to win a one-upmanship with somebody, trying to compete with anyone in some idea. All of those ideas have to be surrendered as they come up into the hands of God. Refused, denied, surrendered. It's a place of vigilance, and it's a place that is very disturbing to the ego. To be vigilant for the thoughts that are so habitual and so familiar, and then to refuse them and surrender them, is a leap of faith. It's like you're tossing out your own identity. It's like you're tossing it out. You're refusing it. You're closing the door to your old identity. And that does take faith. It does take trust in the truth of God. It isn't what we know in the journey of love at the beginning. I've often said to beloveds, it is such a leap of faith because you have been following everything that you know, your history, your past, that has given you a roadmap that says, this is what I know. And now I'm being called to walk in the unknown. And that can only be done with faith, because it's a promise. And the only thing that actually holds you in strength there is the strength of God, but it's also the strength of all the masters that came before you that walked the same journey and remembered and came back to love. And we trust in those masters because that was their gift, to go before us so that we had a path to follow. I was blessed with many guides, as everyone is blessed. I was not more blessed than anybody else. I had the same blessings as all of humanity. But to trust in those guides, whether they're still in form or they're not in form, and some of them were in form and some of them weren't, was outrageous to trust these guides. Outrageous in the sense of, here was a teacher that appeared, and I was called to follow and to trust without really knowing him in the world. I wasn't reading his credentials. I was just called to follow and to trust and to learn. That's a leap of faith too. But it's a leap of faith that is filled with blessings and grace and deep healing. I'm always brought back to Hafiz with his teacher of 40 years. Now, during that 40 years, there were many times when Hafiz would say, come on, isn't this enough time? And his teacher would always just say, patience. Patience is the way. Because patience is trust. Patience is the manifestation, the physical manifestation of trust. You can feel patience or impatience in the body system. You can feel it, and it has at its core the fear within the first chakra, which is in the perineum. And that is the place that says, I'm not safe on this earth. But the patience or impatience, you feel it there first. When you feel the patience, when you are in trust, it gives you a sense of connection, that you are truly in an alignment of love. When you feel the impatience, when you're believing in the impatience and you manifest it into the body system, it's very frightening because you want to get in control, and impatience says, I'm not in control. I'm at, I'm in the wind here. And fear is engendered in impatience. But it's to keep coming back to trust over and over and over again that God is not leading you except back to love. And really having faith that you will be led back to love. All joy in the world comes from surrendering and doing God's will. All joy. You can't look for joy in circumstances outside. Joy is a natural state of your being. You are the truth of joy. But to find that joy, to open to the joy that's within, and it's not a joy does not come from getting something from the outside. That's pleasure. And pleasure is a momentary high in the world. We've all had those in the past for sure. Whether it's from a momentary thing that you think you're getting an escape from having ice cream, by having ice cream, and you're escaping from your fears by focusing on the ice cream. It's a temporary pleasure, but it's not the truth of who you are. And all it does is it clouds the fear for a while. Pleasure is always used to try to get away from fear and pain as a respite. But joy is your natural state. And it's always peaceful. And it's always, it develops or gets recognized as you surrender to God's will. Because God is joy. And you are joy. And in that, you are joining in the will of love. And you're no longer in the belief of separation in that moment. And you begin to connect with the joy that is within you, that is the absence of pain and suffering, the absence of the past, the absence of self-hatred, which everyone carries in the world of the belief of separation. And that's what's being called to be surrendered. That the self-hatred that you've carried has no truth, no reality at all. And that acceptance. To be joyous is to be free of all expectations. What is that, to be free of all expectations, that you have no expectations? It's like the rain. Whether it rains or it doesn't rain, if you're hooked on it should rain, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be satisfied if it rains and you think that you had some control over that. But in truth, it's like a roller coaster. To have no expectations is to be at peace and be present. Expectations are always the future. And they're always based on the idea that something is lacking and that you want control back. That you want to be in control and be safe. So there are expectations that come from the fantasies of how things should be. How things should be in your mind can only come from the past. You have nothing else to glean from except past beliefs. So the vicious cycle of always being in the past and never healing is exacerbated by the habits of expectations of how things should turn out. You're not open. You're not available for God's will of what is going to be most helpful. When there is a need for expectations, it's always about fear, but it's always about an idea that something in the world is going to give you something that is lacking, that you believe is lacking. And to accept that you are everything already and that everything is within you is to truly surrender all expectations, because there's nothing needed. Everything is already in perfect harmony and will continue to open in perfect harmony. It tried to prepare me. The it that tried to prepare in this teaching is the universe, the truth of love. And it is there to prepare you. Love is there to prepare you, to help you learn to let go of the fear and accept the healing grace of love and trust that it's going to take you into peace and harmony and joy, because it's all that actually exists. And there's nothing to fear. Nothing at all to fear. I thought I was just hearing things until a spring orchard I was passing my days with at the height of its glory burst into song. To be available to hear the orchard burst into song, which is not a fantasy. The universe is singing all the time. The universe is laughing all the time. It's filled with love and grace and beauty of the truth of oneness. And to be open to that is to be free of this little identity that can't hear anything except what it thinks it already knows. This teaching, the clear night sky tried to prepare me for what it knew would someday open. The clear night sky, the clouded sky, the raindrops, the lightning, all have the divine beingness of God within it. Everything is God. Not the form, not the temporary, but beyond, when you go beyond that. And when you connect, because you're available, the teaching occurs. There's no limitation to the teachings of love. And the deeper you trust, the deeper you surrender your will into the will of God, the more the universe and the mysteries of the universe reveal themselves. Because you're one with the universe. It's not a separate identity. It's just being available. Not for the sake of the thrill of the experience, not for a phenomenon, but because it's who you are and you belong in that oneness. And that comes through the will of God. It began to show me even deeper aspects of its splendor. And then one evening just directly asked, will you be able to withstand your own magnificence? This is the journey of love. And the reason that it is a journey is because the power of your light, you have to learn to withstand. Everyone has been in the dark of the belief of separation. And the light is so brilliant that we meet it slowly so that we can absorb it. But we do need to absorb it. We do need to meet that light of the universe and come home. And this is the awakening. And I promise you, it is a light. It is opening to the magnificence. Will you be able to withstand your own magnificence? Yes, you will. You will. Because it's your destiny. It's why you walk in this world, is the journey of remembering. And your participation in withstanding your own magnificence is to begin now of accepting your own magnificence. Not the arrogance of the ego that says, I'm hot stuff. I know a lot. I'm the top dog. I want to prove myself and be better than, and all. No. It's a it's a place completely of humility that everyone and everything is the magnificence of God, perfect and whole and holy. You do not earn this magnificence. It is your inheritance. It is your birthright, not by birth into this incarnation, but your life's right. It is who and what you are. There is no opposite of the magnificence. There is no minimal creation. It is all maximal, magnificent, and it is what you are, and that acceptance. And to accept that magnificence and to meet that magnificence is to join the will of God. Thy will be done. And in that, you meet yourself, your true self, your perfect self, your innocent self. And the self is the capital S, that is all creation. And humanity returns to oneness. This is the journey of love.